Welcome to It Matters, where we cut through the noise and dive deep into the issues that really shape our world. This isn't just another political podcast. This is where we call out the lies, expose the corruption, and challenge the status quo. Whether it's dissecting the latest political circus or spotlighting the real heroes fighting for justice, we're here to give you the unfiltered truth. So buckle up. It's time to get real, get informed, and get ready to be honest. This is It Matters. Welcome to a moment of clarity in a world that often feels like it's lost its way. We live in an era where spin is sold as substance and where lies are dressed up as facts, and where the powerful think they can hoodwink us into believing anything. But today, we're stripping all that away. We're cutting through the noise, through the distractions and the outright fabrications to get to something we don't hear anymore. The truth. This isn't going to be pretty. It's not going to be sugar-coated or wrapped in a bow like Tucker Carlson. What you're about to hear might make you uncomfortable. It might even make you laugh. Maybe it'll make you angry. But that's what happens when you stop pretending and start confronting reality head on. So let's dive in. In 2024, America finds itself at a critical juncture, with the Republican Party making a desperate last-ditch attempt to drag us back to the Stone Age. Now, I'm not just talking about metaphorical cave paintings here, though given their obsession with ancient times, you'd think they were planning to chisel their next policy platform into a stone tablet, if they could come up with one. No, this is a full-on assault on progress, and it's about as subtle as a dinosaur stomping through a china shop. Let's start with the Republican fixation on abortion, which they've turned into their own twisted version of the Hunger Games, except the only district they care about, well, it's your uterus. They're not just out of touch, they're practically living in a different era. One where women's rights are about as real as a unicorn in a fairy tale. It's as if they believe the uterus is the last political battlefield that they haven't yet fully gerrymandered. Here's the cold, hard truth, though. Nearly 1 in 4 women in the United States, they're going to have an abortion by the age of 45. That's the facts. That's 25% of women whose reproductive autonomy is under siege by Republican policies. For those forced to carry unwanted pregnancies, the consequences are devastating. Studies show that women who are denied an abortion are 4 times more likely to live below the poverty line. So much for the pro-life mantra. What Republicans are really pushing, well, it's pro-poverty. Their obsession with controlling women's bodies, it's so intense it feels like they're auditioning for a real-life reenactment of The Handmaid's Tale, only without all the Emmy-winning performances. The Republican Party loves to drape itself in the language of moral superiority, claiming to be the protector of life. But let's be honest, once a child is born, their concern for life, it's about as deep as a kiddie pool. It's all personal responsibility and bootstraps from there on out, as if babies are supposed to pull themselves up and walk straight into the workforce. The GOP's so-called concern for life ends the moment a baby takes his first breath, exposing their true agenda. Control, not compassion. Consider this. The United States has the highest maternal mortality rate among developed countries. 17.4 deaths per 100,000 live births. And it's even worse for Black women. Surprise, surprise. Who are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications than their white counterparts. Where are Republicans on this issue? Silent, of course. Their concern for life is as selective as a toddler picking out their favorite candy. And their policies reflect a disturbing indifference to the struggles faced by marginalized communities every day. But that's not it. Consider civil rights. Because if there's one thing that the Republican Party excels at, it's being on the wrong side of history and civil rights. They're like that coworker who insists they're not racist, but, and then proceeds to say something so jaw-droppingly racist that you wonder if they've been living under a racist rock. Or if they're just auditioning for a role in the next bigoted reality TV show called The Apprentice. Their policies aren't just out of touch, they're intentionally regressive, wrapped in the American flag or Confederate flag, while they're systematically shred the Constitution whenever it's inconvenient for their narrow worldview. Sound familiar? When it comes to voting rights, the GOP strategy is clear. Suppress the votes of those most likely to oppose them and hold on to power like a kid hoarding Halloween candy. The Republicans' fixation on these issues isn't about protecting anyone. It's about scapegoating marginalized communities to distract from their utter lack of actual solutions to the problems facing our country. Enter Fox News. It's as if they believe that if they can just regulate who uses which bathroom, the economy will magically improve. And speaking of distractions, let's not forget the king of smoke and mirrors himself, Donald Trump. The man who wants a second shot at burning down the house. Literally. Trump likes to brand himself as a champion of the working class. But let's be real. He's about as much a friend of the working man as a hammer is to your thumb. Trump's record is one of deceit and exploitation, with a history of stiffing contractors and refusing to pay small businesses for their work. He has shown utter disregard for the very people who build, clean, and maintain that golden empire he loves to boast about. If Trump actually cared about blue-collar workers, he'd start by paying them. But Trump's disdain isn't limited to the working class. His blatant disrespect for black people has been a hallmark of his career. He's called Kamala Harris, quote-unquote, stupid, as if his failed casinos and reality TV show somehow have made him a genius. Let's not forget his infamous birther campaign against Barack Obama, an effort to delegitimize the first black president by questioning not only his citizenship, but his race. Sound familiar? Whether Trump's actions are motivated by personal racism or simply by exploiting racial animus for political gain, it's beside the point. The result is the same, a more divided, hateful society where the worst elements feel emboldened. It's astonishing that anyone would consider voting for Trump for a second term when his first was marked by chaos, division, and policy failures that disproportionately harmed those who were already struggling. His administration's tax cuts, well, they primarily benefited the wealthy, exacerbating income inequality to levels not seen in decades. His handling of the COVID-19 pandemics was a disaster, about as organized as a frat party during finals weeks. And his social policies, well, they were as progressive as a caveman's attitude towards fire. Trump's so-called populism was nothing more than a con job designed to stoke resentment while delivering nothing of substance to the working class. Surprise, surprise. The Republican Party isn't just embracing Trump's authoritarian tendencies. They've taken it and run with it like a dog chasing a mail truck. They've actively worked to undermine the very foundations of our democracy through gerrymandering, voter suppression, and packing the courts with ideologues like Sam Alito. And while they're doing everything in their power to rig the system in their favor, they're trying to convince you otherwise. They know that if the playing fields were level, their policies would be so soundly rejected by the majority of Americans, they'd never be in power. This is why their rhetoric around election integrity is perhaps the most egregious example of their hypocrisy. They claim to be protecting elections from fraud, but what they're really doing is making it harder for certain groups, primarily people of color, young people, and low-income individuals, to vote. Their actions in Georgia are a prime example of this. Their 2021 law that restricted mail-in voting and reduced the number of drop boxes was specifically designed to target black voters. They even went so far as to criminalize giving food or water to people standing in long lines at polling stations, to further discourage turnout in communities where wait times are notoriously long, on purpose. This isn't about preventing fraud. It's about preventing people from exercising their constitutional right to vote. And it's happening all over the country. Imagine that, trying to stop black people from voting. But here's where things get even more hypocritical. The Republicans love to talk about freedom. They drape themselves in the American flag and the Confederate flag. They wave their "Don't Tread on Me" banners and shout about liberty from the rooftops. But when it comes to respecting other people's freedoms, well, they're nowhere to be found. The party of freedom is all for it, unless you're a woman who wants to make decisions about her own body, or a black person who wants to vote without jumping through hoops, or a gay person who wants to just live their life without state-sponsored harassment. You see, the Republican version of freedom is as selective as a reality show casting call for The Apprentice. They'll fight tooth and nail to protect the right to carry an assault rifle into a Starbucks, but the second someone wants to make a choice about their own body or love who they love, suddenly the freedom train derails faster than you can say MAGA. They're like that nosy neighbor who's always peeking over the fence, not to borrow a cup of sugar or say hello, but to tell you how to live your life. But perhaps the most alarming aspect of today's Republican Party, well, it's the full-scale war on reality itself. You see, they're not interested in facts or evidence. They're interested in maintaining power by any means necessary. Their attempts to whitewash American history by banning books and altering school curriculum to avoid uncomfortable truths, well, it's part of a larger effort to control the narrative and prevent future generations from learning about the past. You see, the dangers of the Republican assault on reality, it can't be overstated. But the truth, well, it has a way of coming to light. And despite their best efforts, the Republican Party's attempts to turn back the clock, well, it'll ultimately fail. Because progressives have always been the ones to push this country forward. From the fight for women's suffrage, to the civil rights movement, to the struggle for marriage equality. Time and time again, it's the progressive vision that has prevailed. Not because it was easy, but because it was right. And today, as we face new challenges, it's progressives who continue to lead the way with ideas and policies that reflect the values of justice, equality, and inclusion. You see, progressives believe in a future where everyone gets a fair shot, where women have the right to make decisions about their own bodies, and where civil rights are expanded, not eroded. We believe in a future where healthcare is a right, not a privilege, and where every child has the opportunity to succeed regardless of their background. We believe in a future where we take meaningful action on climate change, protecting our planet for future generations, and where we lead the world in innovation and progress. Imagine that. We believe in a future where our democracy is strong, where every vote counts, and where the voices of the people, they're heard, not ignored. We're not going to let the Republicans rig the system in their favor. And we're going to fight back. We're going to organize. And we're going to ensure that every eligible voter has the opportunity to make their voice heard. You see, the 2024 election, it's not just about rejecting the backward, oppressive policies that the Republican Party represents. It's about embracing a vision for America that is inclusive, just, and forward-looking. The choice before us, it's stark. Do we want a country where a few wealthy elites control everything? Where corporations have the rights, more rights than people, and where the government serves the interest of the rich and powerful? Or do we want a country where everyone is treated with dignity, with respect, and where everyone has the opportunity to succeed, where justice and equality are more than just words on a page? The Republicans have made it clear where they stand. They're for the rich, they're for the powerful, and they're for the privileged. They are for a government that serves the few at the expense of the many. They're for a society that is divided by race, class, and gender, and where some people have rights and others do not. But Kamala Harris stands for something different. We stand for something different. For a country where everyone is treated fairly, where the government is accountable to the people, and where democracy, it's not just a system of government, but it's a way of life. That's how the founders wanted it. As we head into the 2024 election, it's essential to remember that our votes are our voices. In 2016, millions of Americans stayed home on election day, thinking their votes didn't matter. This time, we cannot afford to stay silent. We must vote like our future depends on it, because frankly, it does. Donald Trump's first term, it was a disaster marked by tax cuts for the rich, an incoherent pandemic response, and social policies rooted in prejudice and division. The prospect of a second term isn't just terrifying, it's absolutely fucked up. But we are not powerlessness. We have the power to reject this dangerous path and choose the leaders who reflect our values. Leaders like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who have consistently championed policies that benefit working families. They protect civil rights and ensure that everyone has a fair share. Tim Walz has shown what progressive leadership looks like. In Minnesota, he legalized marijuana and fought for free education for low-income individuals and made sure every child in the state got breakfast and lunch at school, regardless of their family's income. He passed the biggest middle-class tax cut in state history and the largest bipartisan infrastructure bill Minnesota has ever seen. These are the kind of achievements that happen when leaders prioritize people over profits and when they focus on building a future that works for everyone. But none of this progress will matter if we don't show up and vote. The stakes in 2024 are incredibly high. We're not just voting against regressive policies. We're voting for a future that's inclusive, just, and and forward thinking. We're voting for a future where justice, equality, and common sense prevail. Republicans may try to drag us back to the past, but we're moving forward. And we're going to take America with us. That is the honest truth.
Thanks for being with me today. Share this episode with others, like and review it, and please keep learning all you can so that you can make an informed voting decision this year. Come back next week for more Truth in Politics. I'm Michael Starr Hopkins, and this is It Matters.